tukiangalia katika ile PBB, mimi swali langu la kwanza litakuwa, what is the current timeline of the full operationalization of the county revolving fund? Kwa sasa tunaita stawisha fund, kwa sababu in the last financial year it was there but it did not happen. Kwa mwaka huu pia imekuwa tena, and these are things that they keep on repeating katika document, meaning they are being budgeted and allocated but hazifanyiki. So my question to you, timeline ni gani, kwa sababu tumeiona kwenye PBB
with a policy where every built up area, Japan has done it despite the fact that they're very their human population per square kilometer is way higher than here. But what they have done is, for every built up area, you need to keep a certain percentage that has to be open area. Do we need to go into that discussion? Do we need to...
My dream come true. Limekuja leo na Mwenyezi Mungu aleta kudra zake, nikakupata bwana governor, na leo wacha nikupelekee ili pendekezo. Sisi ni ma-influencer baadhi tuko hapa, lakini ma-influencer sisi so wote maisha yao ni mazuri. Tuna dhiki, wengine tuna dhiki nyingi sana nyumbani. Lakini tukipata support yako mheshimiwa governor, wallahi tutashukuru na tutafurahi. Tuna wazazi wengine ni wagonjwa, na Mwenyezi Mungu ametuletea mtandao wa TikTok, at least tunapata kipato kupeleka mezani nyumbani. Lakini tunaona ma-influencer wetu wengine wa Kenya, lakini Nairobi, wanafaidika na kaunti yao, wanaenjoy na kaunti yao, wanapewa deals na governor wao. Tungependa sisi pia huku Mombasa bwana governor, deal yoyote ikitokea ambayo kama wataka ku-announce kitu. Tunaona juzi kati hapa Zenizee anatutafuta, lakini hatutafuti sote, anatafuta baadhi, of which ni good, hata kama ni baadhi, lakini ni kitu poa. Pia ukishatuita sisi ma-TikToker, at least utuangalie bwana governor kwa jicho la huruma. Sisi wazazi wetu wana dhiki, tuna shida nyingi tupitia kwa majumbani kwetu. Tupe hizi, kama unataka ku-announce kitu kama barabara pengine labda zimetengenezwa, wataka kuipeleka kwenye ma-TikTok huko, watu wananchi waone the way hizi kazi zako unazozifanya, tuzipeleke. Sasa mtandao ni TikTok governor, mtandao sasa ulimwengu uko kule TikTok, ndio kuna ulimwengu. Sasa at least ukituita sisi, ukitupa hizi kazi tufanye kwenye maokoto, pia maokoto katuangalia kwa jicho la huruma, yakao maokoto mazuri ya kuridhisha. Wallahi mimi nitakuombea Mungu fi dunia wal akhirah, nitasimama kia umuleli nikuombea umri, afya na husnul khatima inda al-maut. Amin ya rabbi, inshallah.
My name is Miriam. I'm Miriam Angel from Swahili Pot FM. And I think my issue is, apart from the waste that has been mentioned and the garbage, when you walk around the streets of Mombasa, there are a lot of street kids. So the kids who are not going to school, the kids who are begging on the streets, and not just the street kids, they are also, I think when you walk in the evening, you're also able to see a lot of women in the streets as well. What is the county government doing, at least to reduce the number of kids in the street and to be able to take them to school? Because you see, some of these kids didn't choose that life, right? So are we just walking around and looking the other way? Is there something, a measure that the county is putting in place to get the kids off the street and get them to school? And then also to hold certain parents accountable if they are the ones who are responsible for sending their kids to the streets to beg and then home. Yeah, thank you.
On the issue of, I want to differentiate. There is a difference between sewer system and between the drainage system. The sewer system in Mombasa is older than me. Over the years, and I'm not talking about 5 years ago or probably even 10 years ago, you've mentioned the areas that you were able to mention. The concept was, let someone be able to build, but in return they were actually meant to put up sock pit. What ended up happening is developers decided to get greedy. It's easier, faster, cheaper to actually just connect into the stormwater. Because by connecting to the stormwater, everything just goes into the storm. Stormwater is meant for purposes of rain and that passage. So a decade passes, 2 decades pass. Then you ask yourself, because this person did not do what needs to be done, do we go and decide to break that house? Putting into consideration that that person who probably is living there is a third owner, is probably a fourth owner, is someone who did not know what actually transpired then. So currently, we actually put up an international bid for this. And we are on the verge of signing up. What we intend to do, when I say on the verge, I mean basically currently we're just finalizing these negotiations. The investments that is involved in transforming what needs to be done is in billions, not millions. Billions. If the county government of Mombasa was to opt to do this on our own, the level of taxation that we would look and consider on our people would be too extreme. So we have to be able to partner, and in the process of doing that, we are partnering with a company. We are yet to sign. We're still in the process of negotiating with them. And one, to ensure that every house is going to have a soak pit. Two, to ensure that that soak pit is going to have that sewer to be collected. Now you're talking about houses. You're talking about houses. Along the whole line where the hotels are, all these hotels were built, but actually they all have soak pits. Nyali, Chuda, a decent part of Majengo as well. These were not built 5 years, 10 years ago. They were not built just necessarily last year. These are properties that have been there for ages. So what are you going to do to be able to curb the menace that has been there? And one of the things that we have done is exactly that. We're partnering with a company, an international company, whose role is just to handle issues to do with what you call liquid waste. And liquid waste, once that is going to be handled, where we can be able to know who is picking it up, there'll be legislation as well. I don't want to say that this is part of the public participation, but then there is what is called, I don't want to call liquid waste pollution, but actually the principle that if you're the one who actually are producing that waste and you get someone to come and collect that waste, it is important for you to notify us. If you calculate all the hotels, all the big properties, none of that waste is actually accounted for. We have a waste treatment plant which is at Kizingo. The waste treatment plant at Kizingo was meant to handle Old Town and the majority of other areas and part of Majengo. That waste treatment plant did not die yesterday. It died 30 years ago. We have a waste treatment plant in Kipevu. The waste treatment plant in Kipevu did not die yesterday. It died 13 or 14 years ago. The waste treatment plant in Kipevu, hopefully, by September of this year, is going to be finalized. It's a contract between us and the World Bank. The waste treatment plant at Kizingo, we intend to be able to revive it. Then after that, the houses which have been built, properties that have been built next to the, or rather that don't have a sewer line. Next thing that we need to put is what is called a fecal treatment plant. It is where it is sucked and it goes, waste is treated. Eventually you get either a byproduct of that waste and everything else then goes back into the environment without necessarily hurting the environment. That is the contract that we hope to be able to finalize probably in a week or two. we're still at very, very senior negotiating levels on that. Then comes the issue of drainage. You all live in Mombasa. I'm glad actually that it's raining today. I think about 3 months after being sworn in, Railways roundabout was impassable. It rained. Kibarani was impassable. On your way to the ferry, just after Star of the Sea School, was impassable. An area like Shanzu, we had floods. It was impassable. We have other areas that probably are not seen to your naked eye, but in areas like Jomvu and the other areas which were impassable. Something was done that today, despite all those rains, we don't have water. As a matter of fact, the only place where, and it is very unfortunate that it is actually being politicized, is the place at Quickmart. The road at Quickmart is actually myself and the party that I belong to, our stand is that roads were devolved, and so actually so should funds. The cost of us fixing that particular road runs to hundreds of millions. Because when they did that road, they did that road without any drainage system. We have given an offer to the national government. If they cannot be able to fix it for whatever reason, we will look for a way to be able to fix it on our own. That is the last meeting that I had with the CS for roads. They did a public participation. I'm informed I was not around during that particular time. But that is where we are. And I want us to be able to also state, you know, wherever there is a sewer, now everyone here, that only 1 in 10 of you are using water that is provided by the county government of Mombasa. And I'm hoping I'll get a question as to why we don't have enough water. But equally, all of you here, unless you're an angel, all of you use our sewer. Let me rephrase. 1 in 10 of you are using water that is from Moasco, the water company. And if I'm asked a question as to why we have a problem with water, I will be able to answer that as well. And what are we doing about it, I will answer that as well. But 100% of every single person who is here produces sewer. And that sewer needs to be treated. Unless you're a baby, of course, and then you do it in diapers, and then those diapers go actually as solid waste. When you take a shower, that water passes through a sewer system. When you take a dump, that water passes through a sewer system. That sewer is meant to go somewhere. The developers opted and decided, let us just do a line. Do you start chasing people for 30 years ago? Or do you come up with a solution? So that is amongst the solutions that we're actually proposing. But in terms of the drainage, the roads that we were able to do, we did them. I've given a written offer. I'm not even going to politicize this matter. Whether we get the funds or we don't get the funds, I will figure out a way, but we will do that road. The only reason why we need to be able to get concurrence is so that tomorrow the Auditor General does not start querying that the Governor of Mombasa diverted money to be used on something that is not his mandate. Sijui kama tumeelewana mpaka hapo. Come the next issue on the issue of the medical costs. Mombasa, of course, we are leading in SHA rollout. The number of patients that our facilities see. Maybe I just ask anyone here, just for you to be able to understand how far off you would be. I just want to, the county government of Mombasa has 47 health facilities and we have an extra 3 outreaches. Maybe in your view, how many patients do you think we see in a year? The population of Mombasa is about 1.2. With the latest statistics, we should be around 1.5. How many patients do you think we see a year? We see an average of about 1.6 plus million patients. The patients that we see actually supersede our own population. What is our next endeavor and venture? One is we need to be able to decongest Coast General, because that's where every eye is on. 2, we are going full digital in our health systems. That means when you walk into the facility, as a patient, you get a digital waiting card. By the time you leave, you get in, we will be able to know how long it took you to get to triage, that is where the nurse is, how long the nurse took with you, how long it took for the nurse to the doctor, how long the lab period took. The lab, you do not have to now go with a document physically. It's a very, very comprehensive system, very extremely comprehensive. And we are actually in the process. We have 3 options. Option 1, we are working with our bankers, Kenya Commercial Bank, on this. Option 2 is to work with national government, and option 3 is to advertise it on our own. All options are on the table for us, and we're actually working on that as well. It's important for people to be registered with SHA. Let us forget the naysayers. Hata mtoto akizaliwa kwanza huanza miguu kidogo kupiga, kisha kidogo akageuka, kisha akatambaa, kisha akatembea huku akianguka, kisha baadaye ndo mtoto anatembea na kuanza kukimbia. Maybe the rollout had its own teething problems, but the concept of SHA was very simple. The concept was the amount of money that I pay as the governor of Mombasa probably is higher. I don't know the income for all of you here, but probably the amount that I pay is higher than all of you here. But the whole idea is, one, whoever is registered with SHA, for the lower health facilities, treatment is free. When I say the lower levels, I mean the level 2s and the level 3s. The level 4s and 5s, you have to be paid up. That means they do what is called a means testing. In the means testing, then they say, and the means testing does, it's not something that is done, they have a whole algorithm of how they're going to be able to determine what is going to be your annual amount that you're meant to pay. What are we doing currently? We've actually kept money in all our health facilities. I made this proclamation, people thought it was a joke, but we actually kept money in our facilities. Anyone from Mombasa who deserves to be given payment for SHA, we pay for them before they get admitted, so that we do our part as well, so that you don't have to know the governor or you don't have to know so and so for you to be able to get medical assistance. And as I'm answering the next round of questions, by all means I will be going through the latest statistics and the figures just to showcase and to also inform you how many people we were able to do for this. before Shah, we had the NHIF. We rolled out a massive campaign where 16,000 people were paid for NHIF by the county government of Mombasa. Between the rollout of NHIF and Shah, we came up with the program for the under 5, that any child who goes to our facilities. Now what we are proposing, that instead of for us just paying for the child in cash to the facility, why don't we make arrangements and register and pay for the parents of that child, so that that money does not just cover the child, but it covers the parents as well. Comes the next issue on the matters of crime. I'm glad. I'm glad on one thing. I'm glad you used the word, that's what's been trending. But maybe wake up call. Those who make something trend are the ones who are seated in this room. Let me restate that. The ones who make anything trend are the ones who are seated in this, well, it's not a room, it's in this hallway. Don't we have any good as well that we can be able to talk about Mombasa? As bad as we are, as skeptical as we are, this is home. Now I'll tell you one thing. The grass is always green on the other side. And we live in a life where at times we want to believe, fairy tale stories where the word that goes with happily ever after. But we live in a life where we have challenges, we have obstacles, and God has blessed us enough that if you have an obstacle and you have a challenge, that means you're human, to be able to see how you can be able to overcome the same. And on the element of crime, one is a preventive measure that we are proposing to do. If you realize, we have put up, I don't know if you've seen them, there are poles that are in major areas in Mombasa. In fact, currently, the only thing that is holding us from rolling it out, not holding us, but the only thing that is just waiting for us to finalize is by the way, this was paid by the county government of Mombasa. We did not get any funding from outside or anything. The county government of Mombasa has put up smart CCTV systems in the whole of Mombasa. There are close to 300 cameras that are going to have facial recognition, and they're going to have number plate recognition. With artificial intelligence systems, that if you commit a crime today, 3 years later, your face pops up, we will know where you are and what you did. We're just waiting for the internet connection, but the hardware, I'm sure you pass the road and you can see. Procurement laws in the country are that we have to be able to follow them to the latter, and that is what has kind of delayed, but we are hoping to be able to roll out these systems. That is one of the things that we intend to do. Two, I see a lot of people saying that, especially this is the part that I don't agree on. We cannot agree that juvenile crime is a cause of lack of jobs. Pengine niseme Kiswahili. Uhalifu kwa watoto haiwezi kusemekana ni kwa sababu hawana kazi. Sababu mtoto kwanza anafaa kuwa katika shule. Uhalifu mtu akiwa ni mtu mzima, ikiwa inasemekana ya kuwa ni kwa sababu ya ajira, ni kweli. Kenya tuko katika hali ambayo kwamba hali ya ajira katika simu 10 ukizipokea kwa siku, takriban 6 ni kuhusiana na ajira na hali za maisha. Hata zile ambazo kwamba ni research zote zimeweza kutolewa zinaonyesha wazi ya kwa Kenya tatizo kuu ambalo kwamba liko ni jinsi gani watu wataweza kujimudu kimaisha. Hivi karibuni tayari tumezinunua na ziko kwa warehouse. Tumenunua hizi tuktuk za kubeba taka. Badili kusema ya kwa wale vijana waende katika nyumba na kila nyumba iweze kuwalipa, kwa sababu wengine hawalipi. Kutakuwa na mpangilio. Hii ni katika hali kwanza itakuwa imetatua mambo mawili. Imetatua tatizo la taka na imetatua tatizo la ajira. Mtaa fulani ikiwa tuseme majengo, umeenda pale tukaanza kuangalia katika hii majengo, nyumba ziko hapa paka hapa ni nyumba kadhaa. Tukienda Kibokoni ni hapa paka hapa, tukienda Barsheba, na hii itafanyika katika Mombasa nzima. Watapatiwa contract na serikali yao ya county kwenda kukusanya pale na kuzileta pale panapohitajika. Mambo yatakayoweza kufanyika, tukiwa na usafi maradhi yanapungua, tukiwa na usafi mji wetu unaboreka, tukiwa na usafi tumepeana ajira kwa hawa vijana wetu pia vile vile, na pia itakuwa ni jinsi ya kuweza kuleta ule ambao kwamba utakuwa na uwiano mwema na wale ambao kwamba ni vijana wetu. Tayari tunazungumza na umezimata watu wasije wakaona tunkatiwa tu. Tayari tunazungumza na deputy governor ambaye kwamba ndiye anahusika na mambo ya environment, jinsi gani tutakaoweza kuwachukua hawa vijana, jinsi ambao kwamba itabidi kila mmoja katika Mombasa achukue jukumu lake, jinsi ambavyo kwamba ushuru utakavyoweza kuchukuliwa. Hilo litakuwa sasa liko katika mpangilio, ili kila mmoja asihisi ya kwa ameumia, lakini kila mmoja ahisi ya kwa mji umeweza kuboreka. So katika mpangilio ambao kwamba tuko nao ni huo. 3 ni vile tu supplementary yetu imechelewa, lakini hapa hatujachelewa sana. Tuna program yetu ya skills mitaani ambao kwamba sio kila mmoja atakuwa daktari, sio kila mmoja atakuwa lawyer. But they are talking of being a doctor. Mombasa is about to have, actually not about to, I think it is by September, we're going to have a school of medicine. Like I said, we might be very, very bad, but we have some goodness in us. And the school of medicine, the children from Mombasa, we're actually going to identify, I think it is about 12 to 18 needy students. 30% will be waived by, it's a partnership between the county government of Mombasa and Technical University. 30% will be waived by the university. 30% scholarship will be paid by the county government, and the remaining amount is what will be paid by the child. And our target actually is going to be even more than that. If I'm not mistaken, what the child is going to pay is hardly about 20% of the fee. But that is one of the things that we intend to be able to do. The Skills Mitaani program, for those of you who know me from my time as a member of parliament, is to get these young people watoke kutoka mabarazani waweze kujipatia ada kupitia mkono wao. Baada ya pale tutaanza kukagua wale ambao kwamba waliokuwa wana discipline, walofanya vyema, tukiwa tunawasomesha, waloweza kuwa na bidii. Ikiwa ni mwanamke amefanya kazi ya mambo yake ya mkono, whether it is beauty related, ikiwa ni mwanamume ameamua kufanya kazi yake ya mkono, whether it is mambo ya useremala, that's carpentry and all, we'll give you a startup capital as well. It's just our role in trying to be able to reduce crime. But then more than that, we all need to be able to agree that this is a societal issue. We could be in denial, and it could be a subject for another conversation, but whether we want it or not, when you see children getting into crime, and you start asking, what is the government doing? The government is an enforcing agency. But, and by the way, we're not as badly off as we try and portray ourselves. However, some things are a society issue. And I think we need to also all accept that unless we decide to change ourselves, no one is going to come and change us. Let's just be very clear on that as well. I think lingine amba kwamba ni kuhusiana na engaging influencers for purposes of promoting our things. I think ilo ni jambo dogo, situtaka kuliingilia sana, but I will figure out a way with my department of media to angalia tutaweza kufanya vipi. Then lastly, I think Mary talked about the street kids. Actually, we do swoops every time. And surprise, surprise, close to 98% of those who end up being swooped are fabricated street children. By the way, those street children are not even from Mombasa. Hawatoki Mombasa, tunajua lazima tuambiane ukweli. Kuna wale ambao kwamba wenye kutoka Mombasa, lakini wengi zaidi, wengi. Tuliwahi kufanya swoop waliposhikwa na kuanza kufanywa vetting. Kuna wale ambao kwamba walionekana ya kwa tasi wa Kenya, ni wa Tanzania. Kuna wengine ikija alipoona ya kwa sasa hana tena njia, akatoa namba ya mzazi wake, alikimbia kwao. Wengine I think they were even from as far as Kisii. Kuna wengine amekimbia kwao Kisumu and all that. And I think all this also ni kwa sababu kwa fikra zetu tunaweza kuona ya kuwa tuna roho ya imani. And that is the reason why sometimes when we make these decisions, it is important to have tough decisions. Hii mambo ya kusema ya kuwa tutaanza kuweka watu, kuweka line, kuwapatia mkate na maziwa, you're bringing in hata wale ambao kwamba sio ambao kwamba nia yako ni kuwasaidia, inakuwa ni zahma na fujo. So 98% of all those that you feel are street children are all fabricated. They're doing this as actually a commercial enterprise. And what they're basically doing is they're feeding on your emotions. So I hope I've been able to answer those. Maybe I'll get the next round of issues.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. God is good. My name is Hadija Jilo. I'm from Swahili Pot Hub. And my question today is about mental health. So mental health has been a growing concern over the years, especially for the youth of Mombasa County. And I'd like to commend the governor. The other day he banned the blue pill so that the pharmacists don't sell it to the people, right? So that was a bold move on your part. But other than that, what other strategies or programs do you have that will be able to curb the issues on mental health and also drug addiction? And number two, fortunately, you've already answered my question on the digital service tracker. So I just hope that it will be implemented well and it will be up and working. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Mimi kwa majina naitwa Bubakar Ahmed, lakini najulikana kama King Abuza. Mimi issue yangu aswa ni kuhusu county government na penye wao wanatushikaga mkono. So nitajiprefer mimi mwenyewe ama things ambazo pia ningependa pia county government tusaidie. And I will give example. County government ya Mombasa, we have done something very big hapa county ya Mombasa, na tulijaribu kutafuta usaidizi kutoka kwa county, not only financially but just a picture. Tuchukue tu picha na governor kualika jamii kuwa bwana, there's a thing that our content creators wanafanya hapa Mombasa. Only a picture ilishindikana kupatikana kualika watu, na unfortunately governor from another county walitu recognize na wakataka sisi twende tuhojiane na yeye, in which governor wetu sisi tulishindwa kumfikia, either hakufikishiwa salamu ama either kuna njia, yani ni vigumu sana kufikia kwa governor. So hilo jambo yani ni jambo ambalo sisi lilitukera, na tumefanya kitu ambacho Kenya nzima haijaifanyika. Kwa wale ambao watakuwa hawajui, labda tulihost 7-a-side championship ya Kenya nzima inter-counties, na ilifanyika hapa Mombasa, na kutokana hiyo ilirushwa kwa 4 international televisions, na kusema ule ukweli, jina ambalo linatokea pale ni Mombasa County. It's not all watu wawili ambao wamefanya hilo jambo, lakini naambiwa jambo ambalo limefanyika Mombasa County, yani sifa zinarudi Mombasa County. Lakini sisi tukitaka kufikia hiyo Mombasa County ama viongozi wa Mombasa County hatuwapati. So nikasema endapo kama nitapata chance ya kuonana na governor, tunataka kujua kuwa sisi kama influencers ama content creators, tukiwa tuna jambo letu tunakufikiaje, kwa sababu hatutaki magavana wengine watu approach sisi wanataka kufanya jambo na sisi wakati tuna governor wetu sisi hatuwezi mfikia.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I'm sorry. I'm Mildred from Swahili Port Hub Foundation, and this is my question concerning the skilled youth. Mildred, yeah. So I have a question concerning the unemployment rate among the skilled youth. So what the tangible plans are currently in place that is active to connect skilled youth with job opportunities in Mombasa and beyond, and how is the county tracking the employment outcomes?
My name is Mohammed Ahmed Suleiman. Najulikana kama Bajun Master Hip Hop, na kazi yangu mimi ni mambo na muziki. Mheshimiwa, mimi na swali moja kutoka kwako. Wingi hapa wameongelea kuhusu barabara na vitu vingi, lakini mimi nilikuwa naomba niongelee kuhusu talent. Talent Mombasa hazithaminiwi na ziko nyuma, na hiyo ni kitu ambayo kila mtu anaona. Kiupande wa Kenya yetu hii hapa, kusema ukweli, ukaenda kokote pale ndani ya Kenya, hakuna wasanii ambao wanafanya vizuri kama wa Mombasa, na hiyo ni ukweli na kila mtu anajua. Lakini kote kando na kufanya vizuri wasanii wa Mombasa, hapo hakuna wasanii ambao wako nyuma kama wa Mombasa, na hiyo yote inachangia kutokana na redio zetu ndani ya Mombasa hazisapoti nyimbo zetu, zinasapoti nyimbo za kwingine, na hata sisi wasanii wenye talent hapa Mombasa inakuwa hatusapotiwi. Hata kukitokea platform yoyote, sisi huwa tunatupwa, wanachukulia wasanii kutoka Nairobi au kutoka Tanzania. Swali langu ni kwamba, je, sisi wasanii ambao tuko hapa chini, endapo kutatokea platform kama hizo, ni vipi tutazipata? Kwa sababu wale mnaowapatia kazi ya kuleta curtain raiser wanaenda na ubaguzi, na hiyo ni kitu ambayo iko, na sisi siku zote tunatafuta chance kama hizo na hatupati. So mheshimiwa, hilo jambo naomba ulifanyie kazi. Ni hayo tu, sina mengi.
Many thought that by making a decision, and I was hoping that this question would actually come on the issue of Mogoka. We started a journey where it was just me, and eventually every leader, actually every elected and nominated leader in the whole region supported me except one, which I respect their views and their opinions. I was taken for the first time. I was taken to, I think, 13 cases were filed against me. All the cases, I said that the order remains in effect, except one that overruled. Coincidentally, that one happened to be a judgment from the Mogoka growing areas. So we ended up actually making it quite expensive for the product to come in. They've done random arrests here and there. What we have done, our Department of Health together with the Department of Education is currently doing psychological assessment to students. And the last report that I have, we had actually done close to 20-something thousand. And you'll be shocked by the way the results come in. And the way the results actually come in is a majority of the issues are, again, society. When I say society, I mean starting from back home. What are we trying to be able to do on this? One, constitutionally, my obligation, or rather that the obligation of the county government is early childhood. In fact, that's the reason why someone took the county governments to court that we cannot be able to pay bursaries until we do 1, 2, 3, which we have done and signed off on. The plan that we have, a decent percentage of a human brain is developed between the age of 0 to 6. What we intend to do from this financial year, we started with, let's try and improve our own ECDs, which worked well. There are some that we are building new. There are others that we found had stopped for reasons that were, various reasons. We are trying to negotiate and try to get them back, to try and get the contractors back. 2, we came up with a free feeding program to ensure that these kids are actually in school with a healthy nutrition. Then we even went further, that any ECD that belongs to the county government of Mombasa, what we are doing currently is we are paying the schools. The schools belong to us, but we pay them per child. The same way primary schools and secondary schools, the national government is paying something like a stipend for every child. So we are currently paying for every child who goes to ECD, and the children are not paying anything. What we have seen is an increase in our ECDs. From when we took office, there were about 8,000 students. Today we are closing to 11,000 students in our ECDs. The next thing that we want to do is, from the time a mother gets pregnant, and this is going to be a very comprehensive program that we intend to do. And by the way, I'm not the governor who's going to see the benefit of this. Some say that, it is whatever it is that I plan to do, I will see a zero effect during my time. But I hope and pray that whoever takes over after me gets a better youthful environment than myself. These problems start, and for those of you who are psychologists, for those of you who believe that any religion, you will agree with me. It starts from the time a mother is pregnant. How the family treats that particular mother, from the husband to the other members, how they actually are doing in their nutrition. Then after you have given birth, between 0 to 3, there are so many mothers who end up not being able to go to work. Why? Because they have nowhere to keep their child. It might seem a very, very simple thing, but on average, 0 to 2 years at any given time in Mombasa are about 90,000 kids. 2 to 4 probably another 90,000, and 4 to 6 probably around another 90,000. A child starts going to ECD at the age of about 4. Between 0 to then is when you start taking a child and you take them to a home-based daycare center which is not regulated, nothing is done. You're starting to instill that in that child at a very, very early time. Yani mtoto anatupwa tu kama si kwa jirani, anachukuliwa anatupwa kwa ile sehemu ya kuweza kuangalia watoto yule aliyoko pale, na katika sehemu nyingi, kwa sababu watu lazima waweze kujimudu kimaisha. Mtu analipa kama shilingi 30 ama 50 niangalie mtoto wangu mpaka jioni. Jukumu lile ambalo kwamba tutalifanya sisi, na kama kiegezo bora, serikali ya county itakuwa ni ya kwanza katika serikali ambazo kwamba ni za umma, ama zile ambazo kwamba ni maofisi za umma. Tutaika sehemu mtu akizaa mtoto wake aweze kuwa yuko pale, aweze kuangaliwa, yeye mwenyewe anaweza kwenda pale na kumpatia mtoto maziwa. Na nikisema haya na maanisha hivi, kukua kwa mtoto, vile atakavyokuwa, tabia yake, desturi yake, yote yatalingana na vile ambavyo kwamba alivyoweza kulelewa na kuweza kukua kuanzia pale kabla hajazaliwa mpaka miaka 6. Kipengo hiki ni muhimu sana. Nitakayoyafanya mimi hayatakuwa na athari ambayo kwamba itaweza kuonekana kwa wakati wangu mimi, lakini atakayekuja baada yangu mimi, panapo majaliwa, apate kizazi ambacho kwamba kilikuwa kidogo ni bora zaidi. So one stage nyingine ambayo kwamba tunafanya, tulianza kuwalisha watoto, tukaanza sema wasome bure. All has gone well. Next is to create daycare centers, to create play areas for our children. Thirdly, ni lazima kutakuwa na wale ambao kwamba wanajulikana kama parental coaches. Zamani ilikuwa ni rahisi ukishaweza kuzaa mji wetu vile ulivyokuwa. Yule ambaye kwamba anajulikana kama parental coach kumsaidia yule mzazi alikuwa ni mama ama ni khale ama shangazi. Siku hizi kila mmoja yuko na mbio zake. Yule anaweza hata hajui amefika level gani, umepatiwa kiumbe, unamchukua kiumbe, hujui utaanza vipi, hujui utafika vipi. Ndio pale unasikia kwa kuna ile, is it called post delivery trauma? Yeah, mama anaanza kupata ile depression, sasa anaanza kumletea yule mtoto. So this is where it all starts. 2, as a matter of taking seriously the issue of mental health, we had absent wale waliko kule, si kwa sababu ya bangi, ni kwa sababu ya hii mogoka. Actually, you guys have the necessary following. I actually welcome you. Nendeni muende kwa ile station ya Nakada, nendeni kwa Portrees. You don't have to talk to those who are there because of their privacy, but zungumzeni na wale caretakers musikie. I raised this matter at the Council of Governors. Na mimi najua wazi wenye madawa watakuwa ni wa kwanza, pharmacies wataanza kupiga fujo. I raised this matter at the Council of Governors. Siku hizi sasa pia watu wameanza kutumia prescription medicine. By the way, those blue tablets are actually banned from being imported. It's not even banned in Mombasa. They are banned from being imported. So whatever is being consumed is illegally imported drugs. They're actually banned. There is no, I think the word is rohypnol. Imepigwa marufuku. Unfortunately, I don't have the power to be able to control the borders. But imepigwa marufuku. But the proposal that I have now given to the Council of Governors, sababu hatuwezi kutengeneza sheria ambayo kwamba itakuwa ya Mombasa peke yake. The proposal I've given to the Council of Governors through the Pharmacy and Poisons Board ni kusema ya kwa hizi dawa ambazo kwamba zinajulikana kama psychotropic, dawa ambazo kwamba zinatumika and can have a level of addiction, can make you high in one way or the other, ni afadhali zile dawa zizi zinatolewa katika hospitali peke yake, sio pharmacy za mitaani. Sijui kama tumeelewana. The other proposal that we are working on, and I know it seems, sometimes even when I said that I will feed all the children in our ECDs for free, people thought, what are you talking about? When I said I will pay fees for every child going to school, people said, what are you talking about? But guess what? I did it. And the other thing that I'm now proposing to our own assembly is regulations on how and what a panga is. I will actually work with national government on this. Ukiwa na panga, hapa hatuna shamba. There's no reason for you to be carrying a panga. So ukiwa na panga, you will actually be considered you're carrying a weapon. I'm working with the national government on that. It is not going to be a walk in the park. Kwa sababu najua pia kuna watu wa human rights watasema kwa huyo alikuwa na haki yake kubeba panga, kwa sababu alikuwa anaamua tu kulifanya kama ni traditional attire. But sometimes we also have to say that a traditional attire can be taken badly in one way or the other. So in terms of mental health, there is a lot that we are currently doing. The issue, Abuza aniuliza, acha nijibu Kiswahili sasa. Anasema hatujapiga picha. Mimi naye tumfanya mazoezi pamoja, tukafanya paka TikTok videos pamoja. So there's no reason why you cannot take a picture with the governor, if at all there's a reason for us. It is the truth, isn't it? Nishakuona gym, tukafanya zoezi pamoja, ukaniambia ya kwa tupige video, and I promoted you and your page as well. It's been a while I've not trained with you. Maybe kwa sababu ya timing zangu sometimes inabidi ya kwa mimi naenda alfajiri sana kwa sababu nahitajika katika mikutano. But you have my support. Actually, I'm not even aware at all. I'm sorry, I do not know hiyo message ililetwa na nani, but najua ya kwa Majunjula, there was a time, I think there was a t-shirt that was brought to myself. I'm not aware. I'm sorry. I will find out from the people who you told ili waweze kuniambia ilikuwaje. But I wish you well. I truly do wish you well. Nakutakia kila la kheri on that matter, and you have my support. Maybe I can be able to answer something else. For purposes of the creative arts, we actually removed the charges. There used to be a charge. You can't just go and film. You can't just take images. We removed that charge. Someone did it. And, I appended my signature and made sure that you're not charged anything as a means of. I put up a team to be able to advise on the creativeness. It was a creative board, and they are yet to give me a report, but I'm confident once they give me the report, itakuwa na njia ya kuweza kuwainua nyinyi ambao kwamba mko katika hii sekta hii. There was another issue that was asked by Mildred on the unemployment rate and what we can be able to do. Coincidentally, you're from Swahilipot. I'm actually currently working with Swahilipot on an app to be able to upload everyone's issues. Kisha Muhammad umeuliza habari hiyo talanta. Like I said, there's a creative board. And by the way, when I came up with this creative board, amongst ourselves, we can't all be part of creating the solution, because you see, you all listen to music, isn't it? You all listen to music, right? Now I'll tell you, I want to give you a very, very layman's perspective. Yani nakupatia ile lugha ya kinini sana on how good governance is meant to work. I'm going to listen to the person who is playing the violin. I'll listen to the person who's playing the piano. I'll listen to the person who is a drummist. I'll listen to the person who is a vocalist. I'll listen to the guitarist. Unless all these elements are going to work in symphony, what we are going to have is no longer good music, but we're going to have a lot of noise. So the reason why we needed this to be able to come up with a creative board is to bring on board those who are from this, you know, there are those who are in acting, there are those who are musicians, there are those who are in the social media space, there are those who are in many elements, you know. Acting in itself has many elements. There's screen and there's theater as well. Then there's those who are now spoken word and everything else. But if you're going to mix everything and jumble it up, we will not have melodious music. We are going to have noise. So allow this creative board to give me their report. And that report, by the way, will also indicate on ways in which we can be able to figure out what revenue stream can be created for yourselves. One thing that I do know, a function that is done by the county government, wasanii wote wamekuwa wa Mombasa. I'm talking about from the time I got into office, all events that have been done by the county government of Mombasa, wasanii wote wanatoka Mombasa. We have never had any instance where there's any artist who has come from anywhere else. In fact, one New Year, some artists were called. The next New Year, walipoambiwa wacha wengine waitwe, wale kwamba walioitwa mwaka jana walikuja wakakasirika kweli kweli, wakaenda kwa mitandao wakasema ya kwa imechaguliwa unfairly. Nikajiuliza, sasa wewe ulichaguliwa last year, how come it was not unfair then? I hope I've been able to answer. So allow this creative way ulichaguliwa last year, how come it was not unfair then? I hope I've been able to answer. So allow, let's give them the by next financial year ambao kwamba inaanza hii July inaokuja, we'll be able to now do way more for all of you. But samahani kama ulipeana message ya kuhusiana na promoting this, we will discuss it. I take the opportunity to just say sorry on the behalf of those who did not give me that message. Sawa sio? Or probably nilikuwa siko, I don't know. But you have my support. Maybe we take the next round of questions?
Yeah. I'm very grateful today. Alhamdulillah, we got a chance to talk to you, Mr. Governor, on behalf of Mombasa Vibrants and Influencers. Mr. Governor, on behalf of influencers, I have 3 requests. Number 1 is provision of a creative digital hub for influencers with co-working space, internet, podcast rooms, and the hub is to be funded or subsidized by the county with a public-private partnership. And number 2, inclusion in tenders and opportunities. We as influencers should be given priority access in county tenders, advertising, and event hosting gigs. And number 3, monthly or quarterly paid engagements. We are requesting for monthly content campaigns promoting county programs, tourism, health, youth, and culture. Mr. Governor, we believe as content creators or as influencers, we are not just influencers. We are people promoting the culture, storytellers, and modern ambassadors of this beautiful county. Thank you so much.
We do not mention the good stuff that has been done in the administration. I think we do that quite a lot. Personally, I do. But at the same time, say to go 2025, soon elections are around the corner. We're a bit worried that part of your manifesto has not been achieved. And you're right. Such forums, we really appreciate them. Thank you for having us here, because then it gives us an insight of what is happening or what is yet to happen, what is in the pipeline from your manifesto, so that we are yet in a better position to also inform our followers and the public of the same. But if there is silence, then we are unaware of what is happening in the administration or in the county government. then all we have to do is listen to those who talk to us, which is the public. And that is what we've been doing. And I'm here representing the minority in Mombasa, the animals. They hardly mentioned. And I think as Muslims, as Christians as well, we are told, in the Bible, you are the shepherds of these beasts. And in the Quran, we are also the caretakers. And they live in communities just like us, isn't it? Now, my concern for, I think I was telling Husni the same thing, that as an environmentalist, you need to be acutely aware that it is animals that give you those trees. That bat, that bee, they're the ones that do the pollination for you to be able to get those trees that eventually you come and protect. And my concern here today is that according to the Global Forest Watch, from 2001 to now, we've lost over 28% of biodiversity in Mombasa urban spaces. And also at the same time, it also contributes to high carbon emissions. And as stewards now of the green building initiatives, I think there is a concern from us for you to tell us what is the way forward. Because it is not just what has happened at Uhuru. We see trees being cut and we say, oh, this one tree has been cut, now we're raising issue. I think it's something that has built up over time. For us seeing trees cut down along Nyali, on Links Road, for us seeing trees cut down in Ganjoni, for us seeing trees cut down as well when it happened in 2023. And CBO on environment raised these issues along railways, where the Juakali people planted over 20 trees for them to get shed when they're doing their small businesses there. And they were all cut down, and it was on pedestrian way. It wasn't even in the developer's land on railways. So my concern is the displacement of those bats that are at Uhuru Gardens. And I think you're aware, for 5 years consecutively, I've held rabies, free rabies vaccinations in Mombasa County, where in fact Pwani Animal Welfare is recognized as the Center of Excellence for Global Rabies Alliance in the Coast region for the work we do here. And my concern is that rabies, bats are agents of rabies at the same time. If we displace them, and they usually harbor in the virus, it may be in its dominant state, but if we stress them out, again, mental health for animals is not considered. If they're overly stressed out and they get displaced, they will displace in human populated areas, which they will interact with humans and they will interact with animals. We are one health organization, and our concern is not just for those animals, but the ripple effects that it comes again to humans. And again, I raise this issue with Husni. Cleanliness of these public spaces. You talk about mental health, and Uhuru Garden offers that. It's a physical and mental place for where people go and relax. You know, and those bat droppings there as well, once they dry, they are a very high source of fertilizer, but at the same time, when you displace them when they're very dry, the spores cause fungal infections in humans as well. So cleanliness of such public spaces is also paramount. And in the issue of mental health, as a counseling psychologist myself, I'd like to say this, that even when we build wellness centers, my experience with my people, with my Swahili people, is that they've still not accepted mental health. And the only way we'll get them to go to Portrees for wellness is if we start raising awareness campaigns from now on the importance of mental health wellness from an age of the kids you're talking about in school. And again, your teachers also need to be taught on mental health awareness for children, because we cannot sort out our homes and then the children come and get affected by teachers as well in schools. So thank you.
Is it afternoon? Yeah. Good afternoon. First of all, before I proceed, His Excellency the Governor, I would like to appreciate you as Nurturing Stars Organization. Mentor, thank you very much for your support, and Chief Kurichwa, thank you so much. My concern is one. Not one, maybe I have, but that's the one. To summarize it in one question, what does the county government of Mombasa have for the community-based organization? Because as CBOs, we interact with communities a lot of times, more than any one of you. I came here maybe with a solution. During Ramadan, we invited you to the youth. As you know, we are building the Youth Empowerment Center. We invited you to the annual Grand Iftar, but unfortunately you could not be there, but you sent someone to represent you. But then, His Excellency the Governor, the Youth Empowerment Center is being built at the center of Old Town, where we have a lot of problems. Maybe we can say insecurity, the drugs, and all of them. So we want to build the Youth Empowerment Center in Old Town. We have already gotten the space. We have already started with the, I can say like the showplace. But now the main center itself, we still are not able to construct it because of source of funds. As CBOs, we don't have funding. We look for donations and sponsors. Other thing is, in that Youth Empowerment Center, we can, I myself, I'm really into empowerment of youths in education. We are, as you know, in one of our programs, we have the digital literacy programs that we do. We have the mental health programs itself that, as you have been talking about, a lot of you. And we have the tuition centers that you revive them yourself, the Tijara Tuition Center and the Abrar Tuition Center. But then another issue, His Excellency the Governor, the last time you came to Tijara Tuition Center, we had a little bit of issue on the back side, the first floor and the second floor, and you promised that there is a contractor who is going to come and check and start constructing. The contractor came, did the quotation. I don't know if it came back to you, but the contractor came. But till right now, we have not seen any construction or renovation going on there. And the other thing, you promised us the same day that our tutors who tutor there, they're going to be given permanent contracts or temporary, I don't know. They're going to be given contracts so that they can sustain themselves, because all of them are volunteers. But we've tried with the Department of Education and from you yourself, but till right now, we have not seen anything. I hope you'll put that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Founder of Mashinani 254. So I speak for persons with disabilities. That is what my organization stands for. So now I'd like to ask, what are some of the policies that are underway to ensure that the youth, the persons with disability youth, are protected? And number two, I believe that there is a digital mapping, a disability mapping that you're doing, which props to you. Thank you so much for doing that. But now there was an FGD that we conducted, and there were comments from PWDs that there is no inclusion when it comes to education. That we have a lot of youth in public schools, and they go through a lot. Like there's literally a student who dropped out of school because there's no ramp. There's no ramp to take them to school. Each and every day they have to be lifted to the class and come back to class, and they were forced to drop out to school. We have cases of in hospitals. We have deaf people. Right now, I believe that there's sign language interpreters have been put in some hospitals, but not all of them. So you find a deaf person going there. They actually get to the point where there is a misdiagnosis because they are not understood on what they are going through. So now, what is the county government doing to ensure that there is inclusion in hospitals? Another complaint that the PWDs said was in regards to the medicine. We have people suffering from albinism. Sometimes they say that access to the oils that they use, they don't get to access them as much as they did before. And also we have PWDs that are suffering from dwarfism. They say that the beds in government hospitals, they are not inclusive. So now my question is, what are some of the things that we are doing so that, because these are also taxpayers like any other person. So what are some of the things that are being done by the county government to ensure that there is inclusion of PWDs in hospitals and in schools? And lastly, because I have this chance, 23rd of September, we have International Day of Sign Languages. and possibly Mr. Governor would like to officially welcome you for that event. It is going to, just a day, or rather an event that is going to commemorate and acknowledge the presence of sign language and how it has helped PWDs speak out for themselves and other people. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. God is good, and all the time is good, and that is nature. Wow. I'm a concerned citizen, a taxpayer of this great county and country. I'm a policy champion at Swahili Port Hub Foundation. Leo nimepata fursa hii, nisipoongea nitaonekana kama mimi ni mnafiki. Kwa hivyo lazima niongee na nitoke. Your Excellency Governor Abdulswamad Sharif Nassir. Last month, I think most of you are aware, there was a particular video that circulated on social media. And I was championing out for budget processes. And my biggest concern that I raised was the reason why the county executive of Mombasa did not do a public participation for the PBB. And we had a delegation where we went to the assembly and we presented our statement, and after that we were called in for a talk. And one of the things that the assembly reached out to us is that the county government of Mombasa, which is the executive part, said that on 12th of February, which was on a Wednesday, that they did a public participation for both the county physical strategy paper and for the PBB. For me, it is a violation of law under the PFM Act and constitutionally, because it is the county physical strategy paper that informs the PBB. We cannot have a public participation for both process, because for a budget cycle it's a process. It is this has to happen before this has to happen. Ni kwa mfano, in a layman's language, you cannot get to the 5th floor before you get to the 2nd floor. So for that, the county executive violated the law. Again, it is my great concern. We have been crying out, and I think content creators wamekuja hapa na wanataka kazi. Every time that there is a notice for public participation, azifiki, but when it comes kutangaza vitu zengine, we see how the county amplify. Why don't we use these content creators when you're hapa ndani ya hii nyumba leo, that anytime there is a public participation that it happens in Mombasa County, wao ndo wakuwe ni sauti ya Mombasa County katika kufikisha ujumbe. Because people cry out, we have seen severally and have said this, and we have presented this in memorandum, kwamba constitutionally we know that we are mandated for a minimum of 7 days to a maximum of 14 days for the county to publicize. But again, it is not being gazetted, it is not being any publicized to the extent kwamba yule mwananchi wa chini anajua kwamba kuna public participation. Inasikitika kwamba we have financial documents ambazo zinaenda kwenye public participation, lakini turnout inakuwa very low. So one, I will talk about the PBB, which is the public base budget. Katika the PBB, the financial year 2025-2026, Your Excellency the Governor, we have seen that the county has budgeted around 14.8 billion. Na hizi pesa zote ni za kufanyia development na expenditure na recurrent. But again, tukiangalia katika ile PBB, mimi swali langu la kwanza litakuwa, what is the current timeline of the full operationalization of the county revolving fund? Kwa sasa tunaita stawisha fund, kwa sababu in the last financial year it was there but it did not happen. Kwa mwaka huu pia imekuwa tena, and these are things that they keep on repeating katika document, meaning they are being budgeted and allocated but hazifanyiki. So my question to you, timeline ni gani, kwa sababu tumeiona kwenye PBB, and what measures have been put in place to ensure swift enactment and effective implementation of youth policy to guide the development programs of VIJANA? It is so sad that tangu devolution. We are 13 years into county government. Lakini sisi kama vijana wa Mombasa, we don't have a youth policy. We have been crying it loud, tumelia, and if I can quote your own words, during the last year International Youth Day, ilipokuwa yafanyika, ulisema kwamba bill tayari iko tayari kupita, but paka sahi when we go to the assembly tunaambiwa bado kitu kama hiyo. So we want to again to understand the enactment na the level yenye imefikia ya the youth development policy. So my other concern is the Mombasa yangu. It is a great initiative, Your Excellency, that ulileta kwa vijana wa Mombasa. But what the catch is, mfano ukiondoka akuje gavana mwingine, hii Mombasa yangu, it is not enacted kama bill ambayo imepitishwa ama kama law. We want you kama our governor to make it, to ensure kwamba Mombasa yangu inakuwa ni kama law kwa enforced katika Mombasa County. Even if the next governor anakuja, itakuwa iko hapo, so that we have a way that we can have volunteering and internship opportunities through Mombasa yangu program. There was one time ulisema kwamba Mombasa yangu haijiri vijana tu kufagia, but inaajiri in different departments. But we want this Mombasa yangu initiative to be enacted kama law katika Mombasa County, ndio ili iweze kusaidia, isije kuwa ni program ambayo inakuja miezi mitatu inaisha ikipotea. Ya mwisho kabisa nikitaka kupatia wenzangu chance ni kuwa sote tunaelewa kwamba Mombasa vijana wengi wanapenda kujihusisha na masuala ya sports. Na katika the same PBB yenye iliachiliwa na the county assembly from the executive, inatuambia kwamba the Mombasa International Stadium is 70% complete. I wanted to get from you, Mr. Governor, is it really 70% complete ama iliandikwa tu? Thank you very much.
Raise an issue regarding the matters of, there's actually a number of issues. I'm going to go straight to the ones that, one, you said that maybe I was not understood. I never said to talk about goodness of my administration, talk about the goodness of Mombasa. Mombasa supersedes me as an individual. Mombasa is going to exist even in my absence. When I say that talk about the goodness of a county, you do not have to talk about the goodness of me as an individual. But at least talk about the county you are in. Eventually this is home. That's what I meant. And I did not refer to necessarily ask anyone. In fact, anyone who's here, for the avoidance of doubt, I'm not asking for you to flatter me or pamper me with kind words or anything, but all I'm asking you to do is realize you also have a moral obligation that what you talk about transcends above our borders and beyond, or rather. So it is an issue of Mombasa, not necessarily me. I'm only one individual. God willing, I will continue for another term. But at the same time, there's life and death, so. And the issue is, I think you asked me about what happened yesterday. Maybe it's important I just try and, I talked to, by the way, a number of environmentalists and conservationists after that incident. I'm the one who reached out. I reached out to them. I talked to the hoteliers about it as well. We received a weather alert. We receive this, by the way, every week as a county government. You will recall the last one that I received was about the winds, and when I made the declaration that the beaches should not be accessed, wengine wakajifanya wajuaji, watu wanne walienda wakazama, ikabidi waende wakaokolewe. Tunashukuru Mungu kwa waliokolewa. Lakini ingelikuwa hatukuweka watu pale na tukuweka ile tahadhari, ingelikuwa ni shida nyingine. So one of the things the disaster team actually raised And the disasters team does not consist of just county employees. It is across. It is many sectors. It goes beyond just the county government employees. One of the issues that they raised was with the winds and with the rains that are there, there's a possibility of trees falling. I take responsibility that the department made one mistake. The department should have, and I reiterate this, and it is actually a policy that whatever it is that they wish to do, they need to notify and inform the public of what it is that they intend to do or what they're doing. Not very long ago, Tononoka Social Hall was actually destroyed by a tree. We thank God it was a building and not a human being, because today it would have been a different issue altogether. So when they made this decision to cut the trees, it was not because we really love a situation where we have no trees. It is not because we really, really want a situation where our children will not grow on trees. But some things got necessitated. And I'm repeating again, the mistake the department did, and I take ownership of that mistake, was failing to communicate the same with the public prior to that being done. To communicate to the conservatives, to the conservationists, to communicate as well to those who are in the sector of environment. But the decision as to whether that tree was fit or not was not done by a politician. It was done by environmentalists. There's actually a whole report where they said this tree is going to be, it can be a threat. I had a word with the good friend, Hersi, today morning. We had a very long conversation. I even had a word with Paula as well. And I actually have told them, instead of us just saying what it is that the government can do, why don't we actually work together and see what we can do together? Do I want to live a situation where the tree that I played under, my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren? Of course I would. Many times we've had scuffles with even Kenya Power employees who go and cut trees without any particular permission. It's not happened once or twice. We've actually arrested a number of people who went and cut trees without any notification. But this particular one, I want to assure everyone the intent was about saving lives. The intent was not about making Mombasa a concrete jungle. I even saw others saying that I don't know who in their right mind would even think that we would want to steal Uhuru Garden. I even saw another one, by the way. Someone made a comment. Someone said, I want to make a quick buck on a tree. I mean, surely, me, asa nikauze mti ndo nitafanya nini? I mean, but what I do promise is the department is going to reach out to all of you on Tuesday, explain to you exactly what transpired, and work out with you, not for any other reason. The same way when I have a very, very expansive ECD program, not for me to be able to be the benefit of the impact of that, but for you guys to work with the government on what can we be able to do so that our children and grandchildren can benefit from the wisdom of not fighting but actually working together on these elements. And by the way, that conversation should include as well, do we need to come up with a policy where every built-up area, Japan has done it, despite the fact that they're very, very, their human population per square kilometer is way higher than here. But what they have done is, for every built-up area, you need to keep a certain percentage that has to be open area. Do we need to go into that discussion? Do we need to go into the discussion that it is compulsory for us to do ABC? I welcome that, and it is unfortunate that this conversation had to come after a very monumental tree going down. This should have not been the case. I take the responsibility that the department should have reached out to everyone and had a word with them and tell them what it is. Probably others would have come up with other solutions, but it was necessitated in the interest of actually saving lives. As I was seated here, I think one of the young boys who is here is in charge of Tononoka, and he actually printed out the damage that some trees had done on the whole. They either need to get another printer because this but anyway, I assure you there was no ill motive whatsoever. That I give everyone a guarantee on. To the issue of mental health, one of the mandates of the Wellness Center will not just be to treat, but to also create awareness. I agree with you, it all starts with us creating that level of awareness. By the way, you know, when you tell me that people don't believe in wellness centers, one of the challenges that Portrees Hospital has today is someone has been treated, they're now stable, they just need to be able to take their medication. Do you know there are some families who refuse to go and pick their family members? So it forces us as a county government to find out where they live, look for ways to take them. So some things are beyond government. Some things it's just societal issues. And if we just go back to the basics of who we were once as a society, we would have solved a very large percentage of what our problems actually are. And are we doing something about mental health in our schools? Like I told you, yes, we are. Very shocking figures. You will realize that when you actually talk to these children, majority of them raised matters that are more home related, from the fact of coming, you know, we live in homes where mama tu anaweza kuinuka na kuamua kutukana, haelewi ya kwa kutukana kwake kule anamwathiri mtoto, ama watu kuweza kuingia. Na hii ndio kwamba kidogo ningeomba wazazi wenzangu tuweze kujipinga nalo, kwa sababu hata kama wewe ushaamua ya kwa unatumia kitu fulani, si lazima ufanye mbele ya mtoto wako, kwa sababu mtoto wako anaweza kuwa hatoweza kuiga maneno yako ama hatoweza kuiga sauti yako, lakini ataiga mwenendo wako. So do some things probably in your own discretion. Then there was the issue of the CBOs. Actually, I'm the one who actually tried my best to raise these CBOs into tuition centers. From the time I was a member of parliament, even when I was the governor, I said it is important for us to do this. Tijara has been very instrumental. I mean, I've helped them not because of anything else, but because I know what it is that they do for the public. I know what I've already done. I don't want to be the one that through your lenses to talk about, you know, I did this for you, I did this for you. I know what I have done. On that material day, actually, when I came, and I'll take it up with the department, but on that material day when I did come over, I was with someone who opted and told me, Governor, on your behalf, without you mentioning me, allow me to do this. So the whole idea was for them to be able to complete it. It was in my view that that would have been done maybe what I should have done is done a follow-up. But I will take it up immediately. The other issue, and I think this now goes hand in hand with what the gentleman you're seated next to raised. When we did the Mombasa Yangu program, we actually did take on board. I think you should have said that as well, because you are now saying, yes, we did, because it sounds like we never took anyone. So we did take them on board, because the whole idea and concept was to try and see what we can do. What we want to do now, and it's still at policy level, and I've told them that one of the things that we want to do is to come up to these tuition centers and equally the madrasas as well. Because first of all, for those who have, I was telling someone, people take their children to madrasas for two reasons. One, they truly want the child to be educated in religious. Two, hawana mali pa kupeleka mtoto. Is the truth, and you all know it. Mtoto afanya fujo, hebu mpeleke madrasa. So what can we be able to incorporate the element of these madrasas as more like daycare centers, and by extension our ECDs as well. My intention is not to make a child be a doctor akishafika 6 years. My intention is to make a child have a fully developed brain. I even raised another issue, and I've tasked this to the CEC for education, and I've told him he needs to reach out to both the churches and the mosques. All these vices, there are more mosques and churches than all county government offices. If you go to wherever you guys come from, there are more churches and mosques than county government offices, isn't it? And I asked a question. I said, why is it that we can actually not convince the mosques and the churches to have play areas? And then when it comes for the time for prayer, you simply tell the child, all right, let's just do our prayers and then we'll come back and pray and play again. One, you've already convinced the child to be able to come into where you feel is good. Vis-a-vis, you have to hit a child, hujakwenda, kuswali, and all of you have done it. For those of you who, I don't know if you've done it, but I know others do it. Ukifika nyumbani umeka maji hapa onekane kamba umetoka msikitini, but because there was no that push or need for you, or that child feeling for you to feel that it is a place of comfort for you. You can't start preaching hell and heaven to a child whose brain is not fully developed. You need to figure out another way to be able to do it. So we want to bring on board the tuition centers together with the madrasas as well on this matter. Juliet talked about the issue of disability. There's actually a policy on disability. You will allow me to check on the stage it has actually reached. But yes, we are doing a mapping of the whole of Mombasa. The mapping of Mombasa will include where the schools are, where this is, and it's all going to be in what is called a GIS lab, where everything on the touch of a button will be able to know where the mosque, where the churches, where the schools, where the, everything that is there is going to be in one GIS lab. I do not agree that the county government has excluded the disabled when it comes to education. Actually, the county government runs schools for children with special needs. The county government equally, when we were giving out the bursaries for all the child in secondary schools, there was no discrimination whatsoever. Every single child was able to get it. Maybe the part for the physical infrastructure for primary and secondary schools, that is beyond the governor, that is now national government. I will, however, raise it with them and we see what we can be able to do. One of the things that we have also been able to do when it comes to those living with disability, I removed the charges. Maybe that should have also been mentioned in hospitals. I removed the charges for you to get your certificate that you're actually a medical certificate to confirm that you're disabled. You need that for you to be able to get your other perks. So before, people were paying, but it has been totally removed. During our time, we've actually hired, there was actually an audit query that we need to be able to hire a certain percentage of people who are disabled. We have been able to do that. We have been able to hire people who sign language interpreters that are actually working in the county government of Mombasa as we speak right now. Maybe do we need to do more? I've learned today, I was not aware, I cannot be a master of all. I've learned today that people who have dwarfism need special beds. I was not aware of, I would have felt a bed is a bed. Because if that is the case, then someone who's tall as well will say that the beds are I'm a subject of learning, so I thank you for that. I was not aware at all on the issue of dwarfism, but what we could do is ask the hospital what is the percentage of dwarfs that actually get admitted in our hospitals, and we try and see a possibility of having movable beds on that. Now, my younger brother, the policy champion. I've been a member for 10 years, a member of parliament for 10 years. I chaired the Public Investment Committee for a good 5 years. Whatever it is that you do as a passion, I did it as a job. My job was to actually go through this. So at no given time will I expose the county government of Mombasa to this. Your interpretation of the PFM Act could be different from how I interpret the PFM Act. As a matter of fact, the PFM Act is also being amended, because this does not affect just the county governments alone. The issue of coming up with a budget, and then how long it will take for you to be able to, for it to be passed at the Assembly, the Finance Act and everything else. If you look at everything, it has a level of overlaying each other. So there is a lacuna in national legislation that now reaches down to county legislation as well. However, on the issue of laws on public participation, I think Mombasa is one of the few counties in the country that actually has a legislation on what defines public participation. What the Constitution says that what the Constitution says, it says that Parliament shall enact laws on public participation. Let me repeat myself. What the Constitution says is that Parliament shall enact laws for public participation. But there are no national laws on public participation. So the county government of Mombasa has those laws. In fact, decent public participation, according to them, would say that you put a notice at the chief's office. But what we did is we literally put it in the newspapers. We announced it as well. Of course, I like your suggestion and your idea that we bring on board others, including, and they've spoken for themselves. Of course, they clapped for you because you're giving them business. But are we going to consider? By all means, we are open to suggestions and to consider. But nowhere in law, it only talks about social media, but it does not say that necessarily it has to be this particular platform in social media. But I want to assure you, did we do the public participation? Yes, we did. Do we have the minutes of the public participation? Yes, we did. I've seen others like yourself who say that you should only talk about one bill in every single public participation. There's nowhere in law that tells us that you should only talk about one particular bill in every public participation. And I'll tell you where the danger is. For every policy and bill that you now want to bring on board, if every one of them you have to put it in the newspaper, do a public participation, pay for the venue, the sound, and everything else, can you imagine what the cost will end up being? And how much time will we end up being able to spend just to be able to pass a document? What is so difficult? And by the way, even whenever we announce it like this, and we will try it with the TikTokers and everyone else, we will definitely try it. You see yourself. I need to ask you, did you go for the public participation? Okay. If you went, then I think it was important for you to actually start by saying that we did go. Because I don't know whether you're the one who did that petition. in the words of that petition, the reason I'm asking if you went, in the words of that public participation, of that petition, was that we did not do public participation. And now, you're telling me that actually, yes, we did. And what you're saying is that we passed two issues at the same time, which again is subject to interpretation by of the law. I'm just talking about the document that was in my hand, which even in the laws of public petitions, in the necessary laws on public petitions, there is a way in which you're able to do that. This was signed by a concerned, was it signed concerned Gen Z citizens, or is it concerned citizens, something like that. There was no telephone number, there was no PO box. I don't know if maybe that the document that I have was a different one, but there was no way to even come back to you and tell you, no, what the petition that you actually raised is wrong because of ABC. And what was raised was that we did not do public participation. I'm glad that you're confirming we did, and I'm glad you're confirming that you went. Actually, even in the advert itself, it talked about the budget policy. Even in the document for the same public participation. And as much as there's literally no connection other than the fact that Menta is a good friend and a brother to me, but there's nowhere in law that says that I have to send to Swahili Port a document. But I take your views, but I also want you to understand and accept that yes, there is a lacuna in law that could be interpreted the way you feel, but it could be interpreted as well the way that I feel it should be interpreted. But we gather your concerns. There's only one thing though. Are you seeing the way we're having a conversation? We are talking, not at each other, with each other. We are talking as human beings. Like I said, I'm not on these social media platforms. But I was told what happened. And, you started by saying that video that went viral, I don't know whether that was the intention, but I think it was wrong. It was not necessary for people to actually go. You presented your issues. There were better ways in which to get them actually addressed, in my view. You're entitled to your opinion if you wish for your message to go through. Your message got more clearer to me when you talked with me, not when you shouted in my absence. Maybe I should just thought you should be aware of that. By the way, the first call that I got was that Nikijana wa Menta. And I called Menta and I told Menta I don't know him. And then when I was shown it was you, like I said, I'm not on social media, and I was shown it was you, I said, but I know this young man. All he had to do was just ask me, and I would have been able to answer him. I would have probably even taken his advice as well on some matters. Was it really necessary to go and... by the way, the county assembly is gazetted. I don't know if you guys realize the violation that you did as well, because you're champions of policies and laws. But one of the violations that you actually did is the assembly as an entity, not just the one in Mombasa, but any law-making entity is actually gazetted. Forget about you. Even a police officer cannot go and arrest anyone who is domiciled inside there. If the police want to arrest anyone, they cannot enter the assembly. They have to wait outside for that person to be able to come out. So I don't know whether you're aware that you actually did break the law. But you also asked me on the issue of Mombasa yangu. You asked me on the issue of Mombasa yangu. I just want you to realize one thing, all of you. Mombasa yangu costs this county government 45 million a month. It's not cheap, huh? Ngapi? 45 million a month. I'm glad you think it was a splendid idea. I mean, we sat down and thought about this really, really deeply. The reason why we also had to break it once in after every 3 months, because then there was a danger that we were actually breaking labor laws. You can't give someone more than 3 months and then expect them that, you know, unawalipa kama kibarua. But there is a policy. The Mombasa youth, it's not even something that I've even taken to public participation or engaged. It is still in my brain. A Mombasa Youth Service on how we can actually be able to engage the youth. It is something we intend to be able to do. I do not want to say that I will give you specific deadlines and timelines. But at the same time, one of the things that we want to convert is the same people who are doing the Mombasa Yangu, you know those who are doing the cleaning and everything else. I started by commenting that we want to give them literal contracts. If I come to you as a group and I give you a contract, I know I'm paying you a certain amount of money, but you're working. You're not just working for me, but you're working for the community as well. Collecting the garbage, cleaning the areas katika mitaa. We facilitate you, we cover you for your health cover, we make sure you have protective gear, we train you on how to do all this, we get your certificate of good conduct so that I know that I'm not engaging in a criminal, go to someone's house on the pretext that wanaenda kukusanya taka kumbe wanaenda further. For every 100 shillings that I pay you, I'll probably propose that I pay you 80 as in one check, and the other 20 we pay you in a fixed deposit, and we convert those into cooperatives. I will make you grow. I think that is more sustainable one way or the other. You asked about the Stawisha fund. It is currently at the assembly. I will push the assembly to try and push it as well, because they also have one particular challenge. If they do any law and it did not pass public participation, they're also told that they've broken the law, as much as it is a very good law. The reason why we were not able to spend last year was because the control of budgets raised an issue, which was a very, very minor legal matter. We could not. Then there is two words you have used. Maybe I want to rephrase it. There's budgeted and allocated. Budgeted is what is on the paper. Allocated is that we actually took the physical money and kept it there. This is something that was budgeted for. The reason why we could not spend that money was actually a precaution by the, not even a precaution, a stop by the control of budget, not by our wanting. And there is a legal matter that kuna maneno ya kisheria pale lazima yabadilishwe. It is currently with the assembly. We hope that they're going to be able to do what needs to be done. I have not seen the document that you're talking about, that the stadium is 70% complete. But I know that it is maybe I want to phrase it this way. One of the biggest expenses in that stadium as well was what they were going to do under. Because it is a massive, the stadium itself was a massive thought that my predecessor had in mind. Two things happened simultaneously. The Commission for Revenue Allocation in the Senate opted to reduce the revenue that Mombasa earns. COVID hit at the same time. What have I done when I came in? I reached out to Public Works, not the one here, independently in national government. They did an assessment. Are we fairly off? I paid every single pending certificate to works done up to today. We paid it off. So the next question is, we have a stadium that needs to be finished. However, considering that that is going to take quite a bit, I have proposed in Likoni, there's what used to be called, what is called Mohima Stadium. When the architects went there to do the drawing, they said, Governor, this will not be FIFA standards unless 2 classrooms are moved. It took us a whooping 6 months to convince the Ministry of Education, who have now agreed. So by this financial year that comes in by July, we will be advertising for Likoni to have a proper stadium. It is unfortunate that it took long, but I would have built a stadium that international and league games would have been possible to be played because it was not at to FIFA standards. So we have moved those 2 classrooms, and we're going to build those 2 classrooms on behalf of the school. The locals had an issue whether the school will be able to use the field, which we agreed to. So anytime after this, we will be doing that. I hope as well to finalize with the contractor. There is a law that the Assembly passed, a law that I proposed, and I sent it to the Assembly. And this is referred to as the multi-year financing. What the Multi-Year Financing Act basically says, we're living in tough times, and we have to be smart. I either come and say that I need to overtax everyone. By the way, I've not touched my finance bill for the last 2 years, and our revenue has gone high. There's only one magic: efficiency. I've not increased taxes. I only simply increased what was meant to be paid through coming up with ways on how can we best be efficient. One of the things that we are currently doing is the multi-year financing will now allow us to identify what is in the CIDP, in the Annual Development Program, and we look at all these projects. We now sign up with a financial institution and say that finance these projects, you know my revenue streams, you know my revenue income. Every month I then pay a certain amount of money to offset those, vis-a-vis saying that I have to wait, nilipo mwisho wa mwezi ndo nitafute contractor, and then akimaliza kujenga paka hapa I have to wait again. It's the only way that we can actually be able to build Mombasa. So I think that is where we are. I would have also, I think, I don't know, some of the issues, Nusrat raised an issue. That's your name, right? Okay. She raised an issue na akasema ya kwa in my manifesto some things had not been completed. It'd be good as well to see what have we already been able to do in my manifesto. And then, and I think probably that could be a conversation, and I think we need to do this more often. Like you said, it is important. We need to do this more often, depending on your time, because I also have to appreciate the fact that nyi pia muna shughuli zenu. And maybe next conversation we should have is, we are halfway. What have you been able to achieve? What are the challenges you have seen? What do you intend to be able to do to be able to finalize on the rest? I think that would be fair enough.
My name is Sakina Al-Husseini. I wrote everything down to keep it short and simple. So I do business and economic advisory. I'm an advocacy for Uzazi and Ulezi, which is in motherhood and parenting. And I'm also part of the Mombasa Tourism Council. So today I'm here to ask you just a few questions, Excellency, and I'm only going to focus on what hasn't been touched on and in exactly those fields. So first and foremost, I'll go with Coast General. So personally, I do newborn hampers to mothers and children. I try and do it every month from my own money and also from donors. And what I've noticed every time I go is that the healthcare workers are overwhelmed. We don't have enough staff, we don't have enough medicine, and we're in the situation whereby we get roughly 45 deliveries, spontaneous vaginal deliveries per day, and we only have 27 beds, which means we have mothers with babies sharing a single bed. So 2 moms and 2 newborns sharing a bed. So at night, they end up actually sleeping on the floor, so they don't end up sleeping on their babies. And some are sleeping on chairs. And then the situation at one good news that I read was that as of this month, we got a donor from Czech Republic that have distributed 60 million. So I'm looking forward to see how that will be distributed, and it's specifically for prenatal and maternity. So I'll be watching. In terms of digital, you said you want to digitalize everything, inshallah, for medical. My worry is, can we actually handle it? Looking at e-citizens, most of you will use it, for example, and we also do our e-TIMs, our taxes. We have a lot of moments whereby system is down. Our electricity now, we end up in a situation where we're doing shed loading around the city. So I'm asking, how would that impact our medical if we're going to be using digital? Can we manage? Do we have the technological know-how and ability to do so? Now I move on to children welfare. The situation in Mombasa, as a person who's an advocate and I'm looking at the ulezi of our children and our future, my biggest concern is the child labor and exploitation that we have. Mombasa County itself reports approximately 5,000 cases of child labor annually, aligning, and I'm thinking, why don't we align with other counties, for instance, regarding the street children, and actually find a way to send them back to the counties of where they come from by working with the gender department. Violence against children. This is something that even with my friend Nusrat, we've been working on a lot, is community-based issues. And one of the issues that keep reoccurring is child abuse and defilement of children, whether it's in madrasas, in churches, and in homes. This is happening and we are all keeping quiet. We are acting like we're in a society whereby our children are protected. They're not. And we want to know, what will the county do to help in this situation, because we have estimated 800 children-related cases reported monthly. So imagine how many we would have if they actually reported and if we actually start shining a light. And we have cases whereby people are being able to pay bail in order to leave when they have defiled children. They should not be allowed. So we need to find a way that we can step in to make sure that our children are protected. Because at the end of the day, children are the responsibility of their city as well. We cannot only rely on parents, because some are not meant to be parents. No offense. Regarding something that you had mentioned, which is safe spaces for children, so I 100% agree about making sure we nurture children from 0 to 5, which is one of the main things that I'm doing in terms of ulezi. So knowing how important it is, and also teaching mothers and fathers on how to improve the situation. So safe children area is something that we need, and recreational spaces. For a city that we have to have hardly any green spaces for children to play, and especially our boys, we need to look after our sons. They don't have the places to release their energy, which is now coming back in their teenagehood, creating negative impact on the society. Next would be education. Our school curriculum needs to be updated and it needs to change. Our kids are being overwhelmed with information which is not relevant to help them survive the current economic situation and how the world has turned right now. We have children learning about World War I and World War II. It is so irrelevant to us living here. We need to know about the Pan-Africa, what we can do, how we can impact the economy, and what education they need to focus on so that it can help them with their future and the type of jobs they can come back to. There's no point someone studying something and then there's no market for it in Mombasa. So how are we able in school curriculum to help them? Sorry, I'm trying to talk so fast because I'm like thinking, is Hosni looking at me? Okay, so I think school education is something so crucial that we need to make sure it's implemented. And something you mentioned about skills building, I 100% would love to support you on that, because I believe we need also another model, not just university and colleges, but also to have a sense of apprenticeship for students. Let them learn hand craftsmanship and build their career through that channel. We don't just need degrees. Now, I'll leave the rest because you've already touched on it. So the final one would be county economic growth. You've touched on other aspects, drainage, sewage. So I'm going to go into infrastructure, but specifically transport. We need to find a way to designate foot-only areas. Like Old Town, we need to stop having canters and cars going into those areas. They are ruining our heritage. And the fact that we've already been red flagged by UNESCO, we will lose it as an heritage site. We need to find a way to hold the gem that we have in our city. Second would be promoting cycling areas. I always envision Mombasa to have spaces like Barcelona whereby you feel like you're an island, because the direction that we're going in Mombasa, it no longer feels like an island, it feels like we're in a concrete jungle already. The loss of the tree yesterday was not something that we got angry about, but it's the fact that it was the tipping point for us. I personally have gotten out of my way to stop and speak to people who are cutting down trees in construction areas and ask them for documents because I stood my ground. They actually thought I'm part of the county, and I said, yes, I am. And they could not provide actual legal documents that they were allowed to be cutting the trees. So I ended up preserving some of the trees in Ganjoni near our home. Next would be the truck roads. We do not have proper allocation of trucks, which, because I used to work at the port for the last 2 years before I resigned, and I loved the job. But when it came to trucks, we have a major issue of making sure we have designated lanes for trucks. The trucks need to drive with discipline, which is a big problem, and to have certain times of the day where they're not on residential roads or on the main roads. Next would be, almost done, almost done, 2 more points. Tuk-tuks. We have an overpopulation of tuk-tuks in our city. And the fact that they drive with lack of discipline and they don't have proper rules, regulations, it's becoming a nuisance, and I could say majority have already been in an incident with a tuk-tuk, I'm sure. So we need to have proper measures for tuk-tuk. Now, the final economic aspect is, I'm one of the pioneers of the Mombasa Investment Corporation. I'm one of the 3 people who drafted the bill to help us have an investment arm in order to have our own revenue in the county, which does not need for us to rely on the national government. And my fear is, for the last 4 years, we have waited for this to be implemented, and it has not made any move. And the pioneers and the visionaries who are part of it have been set aside. So can we find a way to bring some of us who are the visionaries back on board so we can implement this? Final is, final thing is, special economic zone was one of your goals. And the reality is, it can be designated. Dogo Kundu exists, but you know why we haven't progressed? Because economically, it cannot happen, and the licensing does not give us that ability because we go against the East African customs. And we do not have the custom codes to remove things from all the 3 ports we have to enter into Dogo Kundu and to exit. And we had put rules and regulations to be passed so that we can be able to operate as a special economic zone, not just designated, and it still hasn't moved. So I am asking you also to please ensure that positions in the county are filled by people not just educated, but educated and qualified to be in that specific position. It is not one of the root problems causing the inefficiency, not in general strategy, but implementation strategy. For example, in tourism, we are not moving because we do not have tourism pioneers who understand tourism working in the tourism department. Thank you.
Sharuku from Swahili Pot FM, and I have follow-up questions on what he said on the feeding program. So, how long has it been happening? And can we get the number of kids who have benefited from the program? And is it happening across the 6 sub-counties in Mombasa? Because I'm sure most of us didn't know that the feeding program is happening.
I raised the issue of Coast General Hospital. Do we have a challenge with the hospital being overly populated? Yes, we do. Is the solution to say that we're going to bring in more beds there? No. The solution is we have to decentralize. You get many people who, today we're building a hospital in Mjambere. Mjambere is going to have a hospital where they're going to have maternity. We have maternity services in Likoni, we have maternity services. Coast General should actually be a place where kama imeshindikana kule kwengine is when you go to Coast General. Do we have a shortage of medics? Yes. In fact, that's what we are concentrating on right now. I've been spending a lot of time at Coast General and the other facilities. So we are in the process right now, we're hiring more doctors and we're hiring more nurses. Do we have a shortage of medicine? It's all fabricated. It is very unfortunate, but that is the reason why we have to go digital. If it doesn't scare you, it's not bold enough. Like saying that why are others, I want to put up digitization and put up smart CCTVs. People thought that it will not be possible. Today I'm about 90% complete and about to roll it out. No one ever thought that I was going to be able to come up with a feeding program. Today we actually have a feeding program. So many of these programs, of course, the person who's going to be able to run this has to be a person who is going to have had the knowledge and the know-how. We're not going to run it ourselves. We'll have to have partners on board. But I think the end game of it all is that we will be able to get it done. In the event it goes down or anything like that, we're going to have backups. The backups are not going to be just physical servers, online servers as well. We're talking about digitizing the whole county. We have to. We already signed up with Konza City. We're signed up with so many other institutions that are going to help us with the digitization. The part of electricity, you know, shed loading and everything else. You all need to be proud of Mombasa. We are one of the counties that have actually been awarded for our efforts in seeing what it is that we can be able to do on matters of climate change and on matters of saving on electricity. There are a number of institutions that are going to be advertised to be converted to solar. We have done a whole in-depth survey and a study. It included Coast General. So Coast General is going to be converted. Of course, power will not be disconnected, but we will have power. But majority of the usage which will actually be solar use. So that is one of them. You mentioned about the Czech Republic. It's already running, actually. It's not something we're waiting for. It's already running. In fact, it would have been a bit earlier, but the government had asked for taxes. So we eventually got the tax waivers from and it is something that Mombasa won through the Czech Republic. It is something in relation to the babies. Then there's the other issue, and this is why I try to explain an in-depth of what it is that I intend to do. ECD for us will stop being just taking a child to school and that is it. We're talking about a whole development of a child. When I say whole development, I mean from the time the mother gets pregnant, to ensure that that mother is fed, to ensure that there is no, we're going to even, we have community health promoters. We're now going to upgrade them to also be parental coaches so that they can be able to talk to these mothers, advise them, matters of breastfeeding, after breastfeeding, when a child is 0 to 6, what you need to do, assist them in coming up with, groups where they can talk amongst themselves. And yes, we are going to invest, and that's why I said many people are going to say that you're doing something that is not going to have a direct impact on yourself, but even in areas, of course that is subject, I don't want to mention specifically, but in areas where we do not have space for children to play, we might be forced to close certain roads on Sundays for children to be able to play. They're still doing the mapping on that. I just want to tell you one thing. Only 3% of the population in Mombasa own cars. So if you own a car, you're part of the 3%. Nawatakia kila laheri, yani nyinyi wadosi hapa, vile mnavoniangalia ni kuwa ni wadosi. But actually only 3% of the population actually own cars. I tried to do something. I played in Old Town. I have family in Old Town. I tried to do something as a means of actually discouraging. And we just put in parking fees inside the Old Town area. My goodness me, the whole world came tumbling down. But I don't mind working with the Fort Jesus and other conservation units so that we see how we can be able to conserve our status with UNESCO. And I think you also talked about our education. Unfortunately, the curriculum that yes, for the early childhood is going to be all about developing a child's brain, making them grow, making them love being a child. Thereafter, national government, unfortunately, the curriculum is totally not within my domain. But I believe that the new competency-based curriculum changes the narrative that how it was before, where a child had to just read. The one that we currently are proposing, and even at the county government level, what we will now be doing, it will be more of play for a child and learn, not necessarily cram or anything of that nature. One of the things that we are doing in regards to the trucks, we have removed our enforcement officers from the port areas, and we're now converting them into traffic officers. However, the CCTVs that we're putting up, and I want to round this up together with the issue that you raised on the tuk-tuks. These cameras that are out there are going to have number plate recognition. You break the law at your own. It will be so expensive for you to operate and so cheap for you to operate. Cheap if you follow the law. Expensive if you decide ya kwa lazima wewe uweze kuvunja sheria kwa sababu kila kitu itakuwa imekushika. We'll have everything on camera. Ukipatikana mbele ya safari pale unazuiliwa, unapawa bili yako for every single offense that you did. Either utafanya heshima ama hutofanya heshima. So it's as simple as that. Have we put in measures? Yes. Very soon. We're just waiting for the internet connection that is actually being done by Safaricom on this. The issue of the MIC and the Special Economic Zone, actually we've already signed off. We are quite far. Maybe this is what we were saying, that the conversation needs to continue. When I came into office, I think I pushed for the license. I got the license out. Mombasa has an SEZ license. It's in my manifesto, one of the things that I intend to do, one of the things that I want to be able to finalize on. We did an international advert to get a partner on board. We managed to get a partner on board. The partner currently, as we are speaking, by last week, they had already done the survey of the area. So anytime we want to be able to hopefully ground break for our own SEZ, we might be faster than even Dongo Kundu. Because not that they're incompetent, but our size is smaller. So we might be more efficient in rolling out what needs to be rolled out on that end. MIC as well is already moving. It's actually one of the offices that I operate from as well. So it's moving, and it's moving quite efficiently as well. So congratulations to you. Like you said, you are one of the founders, and currently you're with the Tourism Council in Mombasa. Then I think the other question was asked was about the feeding program. We are currently doing close to 11,000 children. Our intention actually, hopefully, msiniulize pale nitatoa pesa, mutaitoa nyinyi tu, lakini hata you will not feel that I'm taking the money from you. Don't worry. I will not make it in such a way that you will feel it. I will be smart enough. But hopefully what we want to do, there's a big challenge of malnutrition. Nyinyi muona hivi ya kwa muna njaa, a child cries and you know, there's a big problem of malnutrition. Mtoto anapawa uji asubuhi saa 6 usiku, the same diet, there's nothing that changes. It's an ambitious program that I want to achieve, but once I put up the daycare centers and convert some of our ECDs to have daycare centers, it will include as well a morning meal, the lunch that we're already doing, and a possibility of probably milk at 4 o'clock. So the only thing that will be missing will be the element of dinner, that I hope that the family will be able to come on board. And of course, during school holidays, as well, we cannot tell children to go to school just to eat. but this will be between 0 to 5, actually about 6 months to 5 years. It's going to be a journey. I started off with the feeding program. I started off with increasing the number of schools that we have. I started off finalizing schools that we were intending to do. I started off with making sure that none of our ECDs that are government owned anyone pays anything, and we've succeeded so far. Na sina deni. Na pesa yatoka kwenu tu, haitoki kwa mtu mwingine. So I want to congratulate you for being good taxpayers. But again, all these programs that I'm talking about, from the garbage collection of the youth, to the sewer problem, every single person will have to take responsibility. We cannot have a problem and continuously say that we have a problem. You can only have a problem and come up with a solution for the problem. But otherwise, itakuwa kila siku tunapeana lawama tu. Mombasa tumeona hii, Mombasa tumeona hii. Kuna sewer problem, kuna sewer problem. The deputy governor did one thing only. One thing. At one point he went, and all those illegal connections in the whole of Chuda, walieka smiti tu. And one thing happened. Choyote iliregea kwa nyumba. So all these people came running back and said, fine, those who were there before us broke the law. But the question is, what next? So, and it is true. Watu ambao kwamba waishi pale si aliyejenga. People have been there. Kuna wengine now, to go and castigate someone and tell them that all the investment that you put, we have to come up with solutions. That is the right way. And that is what leadership is all about. So what I see a problem that is there, we're going to come up with the solutions, but everyone will have to play their part. This will not be a one-man show. Si mimi peke yangu nitakayeingia, tutaingia pamoja kwa sababu mimi nilizaliwa hapa kama vile nyinyi mmezaliwa hapa. Panapo majaliwa mimi nitazikwa hapa kama vile nyinyi mtazikwa hapa. Watoto wenu na wajukuu wenu watacheza hapa hapa kama vile wangu watacheza hapa hapa. It is a responsibility for all of us, not me as an individual, but collectively all of us. Ni sawa namna hiyo, sio? I think it is. I need to first of all, before I say goodbye, I want to thank you. Candid conversation. Maybe what we need to do is schedule this so that we can be doing it a bit more often. For those who probably it is because reaching out to me was an issue. Sometimes I'm out. I also have one policy: when I'm in meetings, I prefer not picking up my phones. If I was to touch my phone just by being with you here, I would not have been able to answer any of your questions. I've looked at my phone, it's been ringing like crazy. And I prefer finalizing with yourself, but for now I'll need to bid you goodbye. Na watu kidogo wananisubiri in the office. I need to sign some pieces of legislation. Is that fair enough?